Alright guys, sorry it's been so long since the last video. A while, right? Anyway, so we're working the loose grids. And the first one I did was warm and cool. This one, I'm going to go with Analogous. I'm going with the 16 by 16, and I'm going to go brushes and palette knife. Now here's the thing. I'm going to lay the foundation with the brushes first, and after I get to a point where I can see something happening in the painting, then I'll switch over to the palette knife, right? So I can build up textures and thicker textures and whatnot on the surface I lay down with the brushes. Also, I'm going 16 by 16, palette knife and brushes, and I decided to work with an analogous color scheme here. So I'm going green, yellow, and orange, right? So I have a secondary, and a primary. And they sit next to each other because we don't have a real full set of paints. Be imaginative with how you put these together. If you're kind of close in that range, I'm fine. But if you're going like, well, Chuck, I just want to work with the primaries, they're really not analogous. There's too much, there's complements. I mean, there's secondaries in there, there's tertiaries in there. So let's be a little bit more, aggressive with how we design this, or the color scheme we have. Jesus, Chuck. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to start with brushes, and I'm going to start with, I'm not going to draw anything out. I'm going to attack it with the Hans Hofmann approach, right? So my first layer in here is going to be an overall color, and I'm going to go with the yellow. And why am I going with the yellow? Because when I go on top of it, first of all, it'll be a little transparent, so the paper's going to come through, as I talked about in the last video, or the last set of videos. And second, because it's going to allow the colors that sit on top to pop in a certain way. Now, in my head, right now, I'm thinking I'm going the whole square with this color, right? But I don't know if I will. We'll see what happens in here. I might get to a point and see something where I go like, yeah, let's mess around with this in here. So I'm just going to do the scumbling effect. I'm not going to paint it like I'm painting the side of a house, right? Or my living room wall. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to like try to get some, texture going in here, right? And I'm going to tell you what. Another person we could look at is, I'll send you more images of his work. What's he called? Chuck. Anyway, too many thoughts going on. So here it is. There's the first. There's the yellow, right? And I look at it and I go like, I could keep going. I could keep going. Or I could drop something else down. And I think I'm going to go. I like the idea of getting that whole rectangle in there, right? So this should only take a minute or two. And that other artist's name was Rothko. Mark Rothko. If you guys don't know him, you should look at him. We can look at him in class. Mark, R-O-T-H-K-O, Rothko. Anyway, so we're almost done here, right? So I'm doing this, and now I'm thinking about what I want to put on top next. It's a loose grid, so I'm going to be thinking about rectangles of color in there. That's all I'm going to be thinking about, okay? I'm not thinking about, big shapes. I'm thinking about rectangles of color that occupy the square. All right. So this painting, after you get to a certain spot, guys, you got to slow down. So I got something going in here, and when I mean that, get to a certain spot, when you start getting rectangles down, right, or squares down, you want to slow down to think about what you're doing and where the painting can go. So now, yellow, green, orange, right? I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab a different brush, right? And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go, let's go. I had to mix the orange up. So I took crimson and I put out way too much at the first time. So, all I did was add the yellow, cadmium yellow deep hue. But start out with a little bit of red first, guys. Don't do what I did. So where am I going? I'm going to the orange right now, right? So the yellow sits in there in certain visual depth, right? It starts to activate this. And I'm going to think about where do I want to put this orange color and what kind of rectangle I want to have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up in here and I'm going to work a rectangle in here, right? And you might, you know what, guys? It's not a bad thing to have a, what do you call it? A Hans Hofmann in front of you while you're painting this, right? I've got images of his in my head right now. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there and do that, right? So it doesn't look like much. There's so much more painting to do on this. And I'm going to take the green, right? I'm going to go in with a different brush again. I'm going to go in with a smaller brush. I don't know why I'm going in with a smaller brush. I just am. And I'm going to overlap this a little bit. And I'm going to put it in here. Right? I don't know if I want that brush now. I'm going to go with this brush. Anyway. Alright. So here we are. And I'm going to put this green in here, right? Now, am I looking for like a copy of a Hofmann? No. I'm looking for you to bounce off of his ideas. And to take liberties with it, right? Because that's what we're doing, aren't we? He's now the subject in a certain way, right? So you can take liberties with the Hofmann, right? So what do I mean by liberties? Let's get into it right away. There's that, green, green. And then, so what happens if I go in here and I go like, all right, I'm going to drop in another green. I've seen all these, well, I've looked at those Hofmann paintings, right? But I don't see many diagonals. So what happens if we go, oh, I don't know. Let's go in here. Let's go off of here. All the way up. And here. All right, that's all I'm going to do for that. Let's check the time. Oh, we're down to 35 seconds. All right, so they're there, right? There's a beginning. After this, I'm going to go load this video. And when we're done, this will be pushed along. I'll talk about where I went and why I went. All right, talk to you soon.